Good morning, Revolution, everybody, and welcome to our show this morning. A lot to talk about in the class struggle arena this week. Big labor victory in Michigan, right to work defeated. Then on the opposite side of the class line, big banking crisis. Um, there is trouble in TikTok land, which is one of Anita's favorite places to go and learn and amuse herself. And then finally, we'll have our mailbag and question of the week. Can money buy you happiness? You remember that song by the Beatles, Money Can't Buy You Love? I remember it. And I always said, it may not be able to buy you love, but it sure can get you a whole lot of affection. But anyway, um, big victory in Michigan for the first time in, I don't know, almost half a century. Uh, right to work was overturned. And it was preceded, uh, of course, elections have consequences. For all of you who say, oh, voting is not, I ain't for it, elections have consequences. And it was a big consequence because in Michigan, after the election, they repealed a early 20th century anti-abortion bill. They provided protection for LGBTQ people, and now overturned a right to work. Big news, Rosanna, in the state of Michigan.
Very true. Very true. It is huge news. And I think it's a big, important lesson for all of us that you're right. Elections have consequences, and mobilization and organizing uh, people also is part of that. It's that movement, building that movement that elects the those that are going to do right for working people.
You know, Anita, the Democrats only got a 2 or 3 seat majority, both in
Hmm.
the Senate and in the lower house of the state legislature. But it was enough to pass those bills. And I'm just so, it's such a stark difference because a year or two ago, the militias were occupying the state capitol, and the governor was the subject of a conspiracy to kidnap and murder her. Uh, and now there's a significant labor victory. We'll struggle, there's progress, no?
Exactly. I took down the numbers 56 to 53 was the majority, and it was on a strictly partisan vote. Also, the gun safety law that was passed. And the Republicans in Michigan are so angry, and I watched some footage of a demonstration that was being held against, in favor of keeping right to work. And it was amusing because they said we're the voice of the voiceless, and then the woman was wearing an Americans for Prosperity shirt. So the voiceless are apparently the Koch brothers here, who think they're the voiceless billionaires. But it really shows that the unified Democrats can get some stuff done. This bill, although it may be the first time we've repealed a right to work law in decades, this particular right to work law was only a decade old, and it had been forced through by the Republicans in a very secretive, one day, no hearing kind of situation. So it was always tentative, and I'm glad they have reversed it today.
Really, it's a new law. I thought it was a little bit older, but I'm sure your research is better than mine. And Scott, the fact that they were able to do it in the first place speaks to what happened with respect to the deindustrialization in Michigan, the weakening of labor, the breaking of the what we used to call the Black Labor Alliance in Michigan, um, which is even revealed even more starkly in the neighboring state of Ohio, where Anita's from, which used to be a blue state. Then it turned, what's that color? Pink, red, purple,
Purple.
purple, purple.
Purple.
And now my home state is a red state. I
No.
can't get over it. And it shows uh, the importance of fighting for U.S. Jobs, but also the need for the labor movement to uh, be more flexible and adapted and organize new and emerging sections of the working class. No?
Well, absolutely. And I think the other side of that process of um, the the attack on labor, the deindustrialization process, or the process of layoffs that and plant closures that did so much damage to the labor movement. Yeah, that was a real historical process, and it had very negative effects, as you point out. But what we've been seeing over the past few years is the labor movement coming out of that phase and entering a new phase of militancy. Some of it in more service sector shops, like teachers, or the UFCW, the commercial workers in retail, but across the board, really. And you know, a labor movement with a fighting spirit, a labor movement that's growing, is going to be a huge force against the fascist threat and for the needs of working people. So I think that the attack on labor and the deindustrialization is half the story. The other half is that we obviously got to keep fighting, but there was so much work by rank and file union members to get this right to work law overturned, that it's a really positive sign for where things in Michigan and things across the country are headed, I think.
This is both a working class victory and an all people's victory because both were involved. It's a victory of the Popular Front and a victory of united working class, black, white, Latino, Asian, male, female, other genders, LGBTQ unity. I mean, both, all of these processes were at work. The other point I want to make is that this is going to be a big, big year for labor action. Postal workers contract come up, I think, in May. The UPS up at the end of July, July 31st, contract is up, and the Teamsters have a militant uh, new leadership, and they are ready to throw down and strike. UAW in Michigan, they're fighting that two-tier wage. The younger workers come in and they make Rosanna, $15, $20 an hour, and they're working besides men and women who are making $40, $50 an hour, and it's driving down the price of labor for everybody. And so this is a big, big year for the class struggle, and the party has to be deeply involved in supporting those picket lines, don't you think?
Very much so. There's also a teacher strike that's been called that will start. It's a 3-day strike on Tuesday here in Los Angeles, and it's very much the same. Not just for wages, but also for good working conditions and a good learning environment for the students.
Well, we are supporting the teachers and every other labor union that's going out, risking their jobs, risking their health care, and fighting back. Because at the end of the day, it takes a fight to win. And the
And Joe,
capitalist,
just on that point, I think it's really important to underline what you just said. That these people who go out on strike aren't doing it because they feel like it, because they want to walk on a picket line, whatever. They're doing it not. They're doing it to protect their own jobs, their own families, but also to raise the standards for the entire working class. And unions are not some narrow special interest club that just helps their members. They are a main force for progress for the entire working class, and we can't forget that.
it's a broad special interest club for the entire working class because the working class does have special interests.
Indeed.
And those interests, by the way, represent the interests of the entire nation, or most of it, with the exception of the 1%. I mean, working class interests are the interests of the people. And that's what we have to keep our eye on. Speaking of interest, the big class interests are at stake now in the ongoing banking crisis. Oh my goodness, Anita, how much of your money was invested in the Silicon Valley Bank? Did you have
But
insurance? How much did you invest? Oh, it doesn't matter because they guaranteed your, you didn't even have insurance and they guaranteed your,
that's right.
they gave you a guaranteed loan.
All my millions over the 250,000, all my millions are protected now because of the big bailout. No, I actually don't have any money in that bank, but it looks like a big, again, regulators let them slide. Trump overturned some regulations in 2018 that need to be reinstated, and the government needs to get a grip on these banks. I know they're really fighting the ruling section of the ruling class there, but they really have to get a grip on them. They're going from crisis to crisis, and then taxpayers end up bailing things out. It's just untenable.
They were too big to scale or fail. Their scale was too big to fail. Hey, that rhymes.
Yeah, very good.
I'm a poet and I know it. Scott, and what is all this? There's a racist edge to the criticism of this thing. They blame it
Absolutely.
on woke politics.
Yeah,
Let
there's
me
this
read
whole.
this thing from the Wall Street Journal. It says some Andy Kessler. Somebody ought to write this fool a letter, make a petition to get his racist, sexist behind fired. He said, was there a regulatory failure? Perhaps SVB was regulated like a bank, but it looked more like a money market fund. Then there's this. In the proxy statement, SVB notes that besides 91% of their board being independent, 45% were women. Oh no, one black, one African American. You're kidding. One LGBTQ. Don't tell me. And two veterans. Now, I'm not saying that 12 white men would have avoided this mess, but the
But that's what
company
I'm saying.
been distracted by diversity demands, Scott. How
It's
much
yeah,
more? Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, it's
Speechless.
open, clear racism and sexism and homophobia. It's you can't get clearer than that, folks. And there's this whole movement on the right now against what they call woke capitalism or woke finance. Um, uh, so as the crisis of capitalism has deepened, some firms have realized that you know in their own self-interest, they might need to start making decisions that at least pretend to take into account environmental measures, social measures like diversity, measures of governance, they call ESG. And this created a huge outcry, on the right. Oh, it's all woke, but we're going to resist woke finance, woke capitalism. So there's this push to resist even that most superficial band-aid opportunistic capitalist attempt to reform the system, to make it as brutal and unequal and as vicious as possible. And that's exactly what and that's the voice this Andy Kessler is channeling there. And
You know,
it's ridiculous.
Rosanna, in 2007, the housing bubble burst, and years of predatory lending by the mortgage companies, backed by the big banks, resulted in the subprime crisis, which almost ended up with a collapse of the global financial system. You remember that?
Yes, I
And
do.
was and they, these 12 or 15 mainly all white male boards, targeted Black and Latino homeowners, provided them loans with ballooning interest rates that they knew that they couldn't pay back, and then bet against them. And it they were able to, their arithmetic was good enough to know that they would reap enormous profits, but their calculus wasn't sophisticated enough to know that they were going to bring down the whole goddamn financial system based on their greed. I mean, so who knows how to add and subtract? Uh, I
I
mean,
think even if they did know, they wouldn't have cared. The greed is so great that they would not have cared who they were going to bring down. And that's the problem, that we have to, as taxpayers, we have to put a stop to that and demand that none of our tax dollars ever is used. And also that, once again, they have to pay their fair share of taxes too. How much of that money they gained did they pay in taxes? We've got to look into that. But I'm also reminded about, and I have to dig this out, as I remember a long time ago reading Gus Hall's a paper that Gus Hall wrote on cyclical crisis. The capitalism is going to constantly going to have these crises, and so how do we manage and counter those kinds of things? And prepare really for these crises.
it's a very good question, Anita, because we need to think about what is a revolutionary working class solution to this banking crisis. What do we do? What kind of
Wow.
proposals do we put forward?
You always give me the hardest questions, Joe. I think I think we need to nationalize the banks. If you really want a solution, I think we have to get a grip on our own economy. The people have to join together. The working class has to unite and take control of those kind of financial institutions. How exactly that's going to go, it's remains to be seen. And I think we're far from it right now. That crisis, if SVP had gone under completely, it would have hurt a lot of working class people. A lot of people's payrolls were dependent on that. And so it's not an easy thing to solve. I think we really have to. I think we start with the with getting those banks under heavier regulation, more accountability to the government, the whole of the people who are accountable because they are elected officials anyway. At least there's that degree of elected accountability. We don't vote for who's chairman of J.P. Morgan or Citibank, but we do have some control over our government officials. So I guess that's where we start.
The Communist Party USA issued a statement on this crisis. And here's what we said. We said, you're right, Anita. The Trump deregulation must be rescinded, number one. Number two, anti-monopoly regulation is needed. Greater government intervention in and supervision of these financial services is a must, along with the separation between commercial and investment banking. Number three, bail out student debt. It is uncollectible and unpayable. Bail them out. You can bail out the banks, bail out the, I don't know, probably millions of students who are still living with their parents because they got 50, 60, 70, $100,000 in debt. That also goes for homeowners and car owners. If the contagion spreads, even if it don't spread, bail them out. And then nationalize the failed banks. If public money is used, the bank should be put in public hands. It's not complicated. Let's move the agenda. I mean, when I just think about these things, and I get TikTok is in trouble. I know Rosanna and Anita love them some TikTok.
I actually do. Believe it or not. I do. I do. I like TikTok.
I mean, they got those cute baby videos, dancing videos, animal video,
Well, it
cat
has
video.
more. Yeah, it has more than that, actually. It really has more than that. It really connects you to the world. I've been able to see, for example, during the when the earthquake happened, in Turkey, uh, we were able to see scenes immediately. So, stuff you don't see in in the mainstream media. When the demonstrations broke out in Peru against the coup that happened, constantly people were live streaming the demonstrations and what was happening, the how the military was firing on demonstrators. Um, it also connects you to the human, to the humanity of people, and they post, things about their lives. Um, they post just kind of being silly sometimes. It's true, but you connect on a human level, and enjoy each other's uh, happenings and things like that. So it's not just about cutesy little things, but um, it really kind of connects you to the world because of the algorithms. I'm assuming I don't know too much about all the inner workings, but um, it automatically you connects you to the things that you're interested in. And so I've seen now more and more of the mainstream media getting into TikTok, showing what do you call that, shorts of some of their newscasts. But you see celebrations of different cultural celebrations from all over the world. So it really is, to me, I see it as a connection to everyone in the world, and learning the understanding of culture of others. Not not everyone is able to travel, but it's through this TikTok that connects you, that you're able to see some of the and share. They're able to share their culture in that way.
Well,
I don't know if
obviously,
that's
I'm gonna have to get me some TikTok because I don't know what's going on. I'm displaying my ignorance. The issue, Anita, is China. It's a Chinese company that owns it, and the
Right.
witness is concerned about the Chinese government, i.e., the Communist Party of China, having control over the data, and that this
Mm.
represents a uh, national security concern. Is that a real threat, or is this something that emerges out of paranoia of uh, Western imperialist, uh, anti-communist hysterical psychology?
I think it is a kind of a moral panic and a desire on the part of mainstream political discourse to take all of our anti-China ideas or our anti-foreign ideas and pinpoint it onto the Chinese government in particular. I agree with Rosanna. I'm a sucker for cat videos, but there's also a lot of subversive and challenging information that's available on TikTok. So I think that's a challenge to people. Remember when Donald Trump got bested by the teenagers on TikTok? They did something and managed to gather up all the tickets to one of his rallies early on, and that's what really provoked him to say that we should ban it. And I guess they've been looking for ways to justify that ban. But the TikTok owners, ByteDance, I guess it is, have submitted a plan to have all of that data stored at Oracle, an American company. I think, they argue, and it sounds plausible to me, that should alleviate any concerns that the US government has. The US government doesn't seem very, very uh, ready to make some privacy controls on Google and Facebook and Twitter, but they do seem to be resting all their ire on TikTok these days.
Not only that, Scott, but Biden is demanding that the Chinese sell it. Either you
Yeah.
sell it or we're banning it. I mean,
So,
how arrogant can you get?
I mean, if we look at this in the context of recent history, it becomes even more kind of amusing because one of the ongoing criticisms of the U.S. ruling class against China is this idea that China is somehow stifling the free speech of its citizens because it places restrictions on Facebook and other social media and internet platforms. Um, so the United States has positioned itself as this great defender of, free speech online, and here it is saying, sell TikTok or we're going to ban it, which is, kind of hypocrisy in the first place. And then, as Anita mentioned, you have to also look at the complete failure of the U.S. government to do anything to regulate the companies like Facebook and Twitter in particular, which were sort of hives of fascist troll organizing. Facebook, which sold user data to a firm working for Trump. Um, uh, Firms that repeatedly demonstrate that they operate um, as safe havens for the extreme right. No attempt to deal with that. No attempt to protect our privacy, as Anita said. Just this imperialist, arrogant campaign to blame everything on China and ban a network or a social media platform that young people went to in the first place because it didn't have the same right-wing troll presence that places like Facebook and Twitter did.
It's a bourgeois town. They they make up their rules as they go. On the one hand, you can't touch private property. Don't demand that they do anything with it. You know. Uh, on the other hand, when it comes to China, they're telling, "I'm going to tell you what to do." I know what the Chinese are going to tell them. They can go jump in the proverbial lake without a life jacket. Um, can money buy your happiness? Um, there was a recent study done which said that your happiness, your joy quotient goes up as your income rises. And then once you reach $100,000, you have reached bliss land.
Hmm.
I guess that's true unless you live in New York or San Francisco, where I just read recently that $100,000 is like earning 30,000 in other parts of the country. Um, does money make you happy, Rosanna?
I think I think to a certain extent it probably does because this, if you're able to pay your rent, if you're able to buy medicine for your children, um, then yes. But in the end, you can't take the money with you, but it's more important is to what really makes you happy is the impact that you're having as you're living through your life, in my opinion. Maybe that's too I don't know, um, philosophical or whatever, but I don't think money alone can buy you happiness. It doesn't erase it doesn't erase the things that worry you. It doesn't it's it's a false sense of security, in my opinion.
I agree. Anita?
Yes, that is, I agree with Rosanna. There's this study had all kinds of problems because it was the way they measured happiness was you had to tap a little app on your phone at random times of the day. And that was completely different methodology than they had in the previous study that they were contrasting with. I I think a more reliable study is the one that came out of the Framingham, Massachusetts study that shows that the more social connections you have, the happier you are, and the better, the more likely you are to live a long life. Health is important. A certain basic income is important, but really what connects you is meaning in your life and social connections. I think that's a more meaningful study than these psychologists with their little flashy methodology that really doesn't have any validity behind it.
Scott, my dad told me once, he said, Joe, whatever you do, make sure you're doing something that you love. It's not how much money you make. It's not anything else. It's doing something that you find meaningful. Um, was Joe Sims Sr. right or wrong? Should I have gone to law school and done corporate law and got me a little penthouse on 43rd Street and drive a Maserati and vacation in the Bahamas every year? Or should I
So,
have chosen to devote my life to working for the Communist Party?
Joe, I think you and your dad and Rosanna and Anita are all right on. Like, money can't buy you happiness. Happiness comes from, yeah, from connections, from, in the Marxist sense, from our work, right? Our ability to use our physical and intellectual capacities to create meaningful change in the world. That's what brings us fulfillment. What money can do, and I say this as somebody who has more money and more financial security now than I did when I was growing up. Money can get rid of a lot of obstacles, right? When you don't have to worry about as Rosanna, when you don't have to worry about paying your rent or having food on the table or having health care, which my family never did, thankfully. But also when when you have the money to take a vacation a couple times a year, to get rid of some stress, when you have the money to um, if cleaning your house is a big stressor in your family, if you have the money to have someone come in once in a while to help with the cleaning, things like that can really make it easier to focus on the pursuit of happiness. So um, security and money can make a difference, but they can't buy you happiness. Absolutely not.
I actually think that poses a whole bunch of bourgeois propaganda. It's this pushing of the notion that everybody should try to get rich. You know, and that wealth is the whole aim of existence. And And to me, that's just a whole lot of nonsense, you know. You are what you do. And if you're doing things that are socially important and constructive and creative, you know, um, if you have a family, you have friends, you have comrades, um, that's the most important thing, not how much you make. Of course, if you're poor as a church mouse, that can constrict and there's a lot of anxiety. I'm not denying that. Uh, but look here, I've been poor all my life. And, uh, and when I leave this earth, I ain't going to leave much other than a legacy. But that legacy, I hope, is rich because it's a legacy of struggle. And I think that's the case with everybody who is on this program and the overwhelming majority of people who are in and support the Communist Party. Let's move
Speaking
to
of,
our
we should say a word about the PW fund drive probably, because what money can't buy
exactly.
happiness, but it can buy um, some security and a bigger voice for the working class in the media. And if you haven't
Mhm.
contributed yet to support the People's World, you can do it on the website www.peoplesworld.org, um, and we definitely encourage you to do that.
Good plug. Or type peoplesworld.org /donate into your browser and make a contribution to the revolutionary working class press today. Let's go to our mailbag question. Um, where is it? After looking at your membership application, I get the impression, Rosanna, you only want people who will pound the pavement and work the phones. I'm interested in joining the party, but I don't feel qualified. What should I do?
Well, I think, you know, if I'm understanding the reference to pound the pavement and work the phones as being on the ground, working with working people, being involved in the building social movements, helping to build social movements, making, campaign calls and things like that, then most definitely that's exactly what we're asking all our members to be. You can't build anything if you're not in the trenches. You can't, we can't build a strong movement to topple capitalism if you're not on the ground with, working with other people, uniting groups and and building a strong uh, working class front to be able to change the system from one of capitalism to socialism. So my answer would be, you're qualified as long as you're able to move about in some way, make a phone call, even do participate in text messaging for campaigns. Um, all of that is doable.
Anita, I want to join, but I'm not sure that I got the skills to do all those things. What should I do?
You should go to cpusa.org and just click the join button there, because we have a variety of people come to us and we build our skills. I am certainly, even after years and years in the party, still working on other skills. So I think we're all learning, and people should have a look at our new hot off the press introduction to our program. We have a comprehensive program in the CPUSA, and there's a lot of different ways of working on that program. And I agree with Rosanna that if our questioner is asking that as a kind of do you expect us to be involved in the struggle? Yes, we do. But how you're involved in the struggle, not everybody wants to make a phone call. There's people with social anxiety that you that's okay. There's other things one can do. One can sit at home and write an article, write a letter to the editor. There's lots of different ways. Donate to the People's World. So there's lots of different ways that you can help imagine and fulfill the program that we have laid out here.
And Anita has the last word. Go to cpusa.org/join. Come on board, and we will work with you, take you from where you are to where you would like to be, and to where we would like to be collectively. You ain't got to come in with all the skills, but you got to come in with an open heart and willing to learn. Do you know Richard Wright, the great novelist and poet, short story writer, humanitarian, communist, learned to write he was illiterate until he came to Chicago. You know where he learned to write? In the Communist Party. And he became one of the great literary figures of the 20th century. Until next week, stay strong, stay safe, stay in the fight. See you next week. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.